What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to talk about what's happening with Tesla stock and break down what mainstream articles are saying. I'm also going to clarify some points I did make about Tesla because of what mainstream media is saying, which is very different from what Elon Musk has been saying about the Robotaxi. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 25 in total. Deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends at the end of July. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So as far as Tesla's going, as you guys could tell, we saw Tesla get another rejection today as we got lots of bad news about the European sales, and lots of doubts that came out from mainstream analysts about the Robotaxi. But I do find myself in disagreement with some of their claims. I want to break down exactly why that is. Now, Tesla has two supports here. We have 326 as the first support. Then our next major support is going to be closer to 316. I would love to see Tesla hold those levels. If not, we could be dumping to fill this gap and then eventually retesting the low 300s if they fail. Now, the 4-hour is telling us that Tesla is range bound. We have 333 as the main resistance, or basically the low 330s, but our main support is currently around 320 or so. So we're stuck in the middle for now, and we'll just have to see which way we end up going. Now, why did Tesla sell off the way it did, though? I want to talk about the news first, and I'll break down more details about this chart. So there's been a lot of bad news coming out about the European sales, which are currently down quite a bit. Overall, in Europe, we saw them down over 27%, and we also saw them down in different areas by about 45.2% during the first 5 months of 2025. So there is some weakness in the European sales numbers amidst all of the scrutiny that Elon Musk has been getting. But Tesla will make a comeback eventually, in my personal opinion. I just think it's going to take a while to really get that brand recognition again. Now, despite this, even if the European sales do take a long time to recover, I do want to say that Tesla has other things up their sleeves. Okay, I wanted to say that with the Robotaxi service now coming into place, they're going to continue to expand this as time goes on. I find that to be very bullish because the scalability of it is very, very underrated. Now, I released a video where I talked about how mainstream analysts are doubting the Robotaxi, saying it may take many, many decades until we finally get to the millions. I didn't mean to say that in a way where I completely agree with everything they're saying. I just wanted to state what mainstream articles are saying. My view is that it's going to get scaled much faster, but there are some roadblocks Tesla does have to get through to make that happen, which I still think they could achieve. So let's go over this. Elon Musk is saying there's going to be not thousands, but millions of these autonomous Teslas in the robotaxis for the second half of 2026. We're starting off with 10 to 20 of them in Austin, Texas, in a geofenced location. But using advanced computers and learning, Tesla's way ahead of the curve because there are other vehicles, right? You have other cars that exist. There's millions of them that are connected to the same software. They are connected, they're learning together at the same time. So if you think about it, right, when you look at footage of when Tesla launched their Robotaxi, how many mistakes did you see? It was very rare to see any of them mess up, make major mistakes. It was all just very, very minor. I did see one video of a minor mistake, but then there's like, hundreds of hours of footage of them being very successful, which goes to show how advanced these self-driving cars are becoming. So I do want to just say that there were mainstream articles that are saying that, despite this, some analysts from Goldman Sachs, for example, are saying that Tesla's too reliant on city-specific technology. The presence of a Tesla employee in the passenger seat was not a good sign. And then they were talking about how there were navigation issues reported on day one. So they're going to use whatever they want, whatever they can to just bash Tesla. We're going to see this all the time, guys. They do have some good points if you want to make that argument that it's not perfect, sure. But here's the thing about that. Tesla's robotaxi is going to be much safer than a human driver. With their braking systems, their safety cameras, and their vector systems and a bunch of things put into place, it's going to be much safer to use a robotaxi than an actual human being. And I think that a lot of these analysts don't really understand that yet and how fast this is going to be scaled. So, of course, the share price could sell off with all these bad pieces of news, these negative articles, but the long term looks really good because this is going to be the future. This is going to be very big. So, as far as Tesla's going, I just want to say that now, the short term got a big hit because of this, but what Elon Musk is telling us is that you don't have to worry about this. The team is going to get it together, and we're going to start scaling that robotaxi like crazy. They're going to be expanding it in Austin, Texas, excuse me, as time goes on. And then after that, they're going to be expanding it to more areas. It's going to start coming to like California, to other regions, other states, then other countries, potentially even China one day. So it's going to be very, very big. This is very, very scalable. I believe that we could achieve over 100,000 of these robo taxis by next year, if not even more than that, possibly even millions within a year or two, depending on how much it scales and how fast they get through regulations. That is a little bit of a hurdle, but millions could come, guys. Millions in the next year or a couple of years. It's very possible they do achieve that. And I think that what people don't realize is how advanced they are right now. Mainstream media is just always going to attack them and just make it seem like the robo taxis are complete failures when it's not even close to being the case. So what I personally think is that we could scale this really fast. I think that there could be millions in the next couple of years. We have other people from mainstream media saying that Tesla could expand to 2.3 million by 2040. I think that's way too far out. They're going to achieve it much sooner. But that's why Tesla's selling off. But there's all these negative downgrades coming, all this negative news about the Robotaxi. A lot of these analysts thought that Tesla would launch the Robotaxi like in a very, very massive scale in the beginning, and they would be fully autonomous. That's what they were expecting. And sometimes Tesla will not fully meet the expectations. But for me, they met my expectations because this is only the beginning, right? We're sticking a toe in the water before we start to expand and scale up this Robotaxi. So it's still very bullish for the longer term. For the short term, Tesla's a little bit weak here. We're going to see if we can reclaim 333 to be more bullish to start breaking out. And if we can't do that, there's going to be a risk of more downside. There is more data coming out tomorrow, so I want to talk about that. Then I'll break down more details about the charts. Jerome Powell is done for the week, I believe. He's been saying a lot of important things. Now he's warning us of the fact that there could be higher inflation if we see President Trump impose higher tariffs than previously expected. And then also because we have the deadline coming up in just a couple of weeks, the tariff deadline is coming up. So we'll see what that leads to, at least moving forward. On top of this, Jerome Powell is also saying that the economy is in a place right now where we can afford these higher rates, so we can afford them at least for now. But they have to be very careful. They don't want to cut rates too fast or raise them too early. They have to wait and see what happens with this data. This summer is going to be very pivotal for their policies in case we do get more inflation than previously expected or less. It all depends, and that's why Jerome Powell is saying we have to be very cautious. President Trump is not happy about that. He wants to replace Jerome Powell. He's even like picking people to potentially replace him when his term ends very soon. So that's what's happening so far. Tomorrow is now going to be Thursday, June 26th, 2025. At 8:30 a.m., we have some important GDP numbers, but keep in mind that GDP growth rate is expected to slow down to negative 0.2%. And we're expecting weak numbers in our GDP, so that might not be the best for the markets. So keep that in mind. That's just like a revision of Q1. And then finally, we have some bill auctions after that. The fear and greed index is currently at greed. We're going to see if this becomes more neutral or not. Momentum's at fear. We're going to see how that shifts. And then the puts call option ratio is at neutral as we start to see more of this data come out. On top of this, we also have General Mills and Jeffries, which announced their earnings tomorrow. We have Nike. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, Tesla's very simple. If we could hold above 333, this could try a rebound for the 340s. If Tesla fails, however, and can't hold above 320, I do see us dumping to like 315 to 316. We have to see if that holds or not. My guts tells me is that Tesla's going to be kind of choppy here. We're going to see a small rebound in the morning, but if the market sells off a bit, this may actually cool off just a little bit and kind of consolidate here. And we might be looking for some consolidation down here for some time because the daily looks a little bit weaker and because of the fact that the mainstream media is continuing to bash Tesla. So I do want to be very careful for now. Unless we hold above 333, we're favoring some consolidation, slower range here, maybe a little bit of downside just for now. But we might try to form a base near 315 to 316. If that doesn't hold, there's also a gap down here at 309. So keep that in mind just in case. But I anticipate a small dip in some consolidation here around the 315 area. So please keep that in mind. For other pieces of news, we also have SPY. So the problem with SPY is that we pushed very nicely, but there's a very tough resistance near the 608 area. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, for example, 608 is kind of tough. If we break 608, we could be pushing back up towards like 610. But if we don't break that, there's going to be a risk of us returning back down to 604.5. If that fails us, we have a gap to fill back down to 600. So for bullish, you want to break 608 to 610 to be pushing higher. If we're bearish, you want us to basically turn back down towards this 604.5 area to start dumping back down to 600 flat. Overall, we're in the middle right now, and I just want to say 608 is kind of tough here. So if we can't break this, it depends on our GDP numbers. We might consolidate between 604.5 to 608 for now. And I think we consolidate for some time before potentially turning back down. So I just want to give you guys a big heads up about that. So that's going to be very key for what we end up seeing in the future. But keep that in mind. There's going to be that risk of consolidation, maybe a little bit of downside looking at the current trend. That's what I'm seeing so far, at least on the SPY chart. On the QQQ, we're at all-time highs, but notice that we have to break this high right here at 542.5. If we break that, we could be trying to push higher, but if we don't, we could be dipping back down to 538 or below. So you want to be very, very careful. We have a high here. We came down, made a lower high. So at the end of the day, we could be retesting 540, if not 538. My gut tells me that we're making lower highs here, and we're going to see the QQQ consolidate, and we might be retesting 538 like this. So I do think there might be a little bit of downside coming as we're hitting some tough resistance, and we'll see how well we hold up from here. The Russell 2000 is looking kind of weak right now. We need to see this get back above this 215 area to push higher. If we can't do that, we're looking for 210.8, if not all the way down to about 208. So keep that in mind. ES is kind of consolidating right now. It's stuck in the middle. If we end up breaking past the resistance right here around this 61.68 area, we're looking more bullish. If we end up losing 61.22, we're looking for a dump back down to the lower levels. But when we look at, for example, the daily time frame, the daily is showing some consolidation right here. It's not the strongest. So I could be looking for a retest of like 61.25 to 6100. We'll see if we bounce there. So keep that in mind. On NQ, when you look at the 4-hour time frame, you want to see if we could break past 22,600 to push higher. If we lose support at 22,400, we're looking for a dip back down to 22,280. There's a good chance we might consolidate here, and then we could be dipping back down to the 20 EMA. We're going to see if we bounce off this or not. So keep that in mind as time goes on. For Bitcoin, we're once again looking bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. I want to see if we could break past this 108,000 area. If that breaks, we're going to be going even higher. But if it rejects here, we could be dipping back down to 105,000. So you want to be very careful just to be safe. But I do think that Bitcoin might come down and consolidate just for a bit before it ends up trying to bounce again. So keep that in mind as time goes on. As far as Tesla goes, we got this rejection. So I do think that unless we get back above 333, we're favoring consolidation, maybe a little bit of downside again for like the 316 to 320 area. And we'll see if Tesla could bounce off that or not. But as of right now, that is what our chart is favoring. For Nvda, we look very bullish. We're making higher highs and higher lows. We're getting a very, very nice breakout right now. So it is looking very, very good as we're making new highs, but we have to see if 152.5 holds. If we lose 152.5, we could be dipping back down to the low 150s, but if we hold this, we could be looking for a push towards 156. So we'll give that some time just to see if this holds or not. On Aapl, we're consolidating. If we end up breaking past resistance around 204, we're bullish. If we lose 200, we're bearish. We had a high here, came down, made a lower high. So I do think 200 could be retested. And if that fills us, we might be dipping lower because there is the possibility of a head and shoulders here. So that's not the best of signs. And that could be favoring downside again in case we do get some kind of rejection move. So keep that in mind. On Netflix, we're turning a little bit here. The 4-hour looks a little bit weaker. Unless we get back above 1280, we're favoring a move back down to 1250. So please keep that in mind. MSTR is kind of weak. We have a tough resistance at 389. If we break that, we're looking for 392. If we don't break this, we could be turning back down towards 380. So be careful if we do get a rejection here. Celsius is in the middle. If we lose 44, we're bearish. If we break 46, we're bullish. Might try to push back up to 46, and we'll see if we reject back down, so give it some time. For SoFi, we have 47 as resistance. If that breaks, we're looking for 48. But if we lose support at 45, we're going to be turning back down. This high rate here around 47.75 might be tested. We'll see if we reject there. It is holding up very nicely. Very, very nice move to the upside by Supermicro, so keep that in mind. I think we could be pushing closer to 48, and we'll see if we reject there. Palantir is kind of weak. You got a rejection candlestick. Might come down towards 140 flat, and we'll see if it bounces. It's still bullish in terms of the trend, but this might come down first. Rivian is consolidating. We're going to see if we break 13.8 to be bullish or if we end up losing support. I anticipate that it's just going to consolidate for now, and then we'll see if we push higher or not, so keep that in mind. SoFi is looking bullish. We're favoring 16.4. If we lose 16 flat, we're going to be turning back down, but overall it looks a bit more bullish. AMD is looking bullish. We're favoring upside for 145 plus. As long as we don't lose 142.5 to start dipping to 140, we're favoring 146 or above. We look pretty good right now. ARM is kind of at a tough resistance and might come down a bit towards 155 to 154, and we'll see if we bounce, but be prepared just to be safe. For PayPal, we might be dipping back down towards 72, and we'll see if buyers defend or not. We still have kind of like an inverse head and shoulders here, so it's possible it dips to the 71 to 72 area, and we'll see if buyers defend. Coinbase is trying to push higher towards 370. If we end up dipping back down towards 342, we could continue to push. But I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of consolidate between 340 and 360 for some time before it goes higher. Still looks bullish for now. Amazon likes to reject near 215 and likes to get bought back up around 208. So I wouldn't be surprised if we end up dipping back down towards like 208 and then we bounce again and continue to consolidate. Meta is dipping right here. We're going to be looking for basically 702 to 693. So I think that we could be dipping back down towards the low 700s, and we'll see if buyers defend or not around here. So keep that in mind. For Google, we're looking bullish. I want to see if we can try to hold above this 173 area to push higher. If we lose 170, we're looking for a dump back down, but I'm favoring 173 or above to start pushing up towards 174. For Microsoft, we're looking bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. As long as we don't lose 488 to start dumping to 485, we're favoring 495 plus, so keep that in mind. For DJT, we're making lower highs here. As long as we don't lose support, we could be dipping back down to the low 17s. The VIX is dipping, but we're going to be watching to see if we get a bounce off this falling wedge. We're going to see just to be safe, depending on the GDP numbers. So keep that in mind. The 10-year treasury yield is dipping right now. It's looking a little bit more bearish after what Jerome Powell said. The dollar is at support near 97.6. And the crude data is just showing that right now crude is low. We're going to see if it bounces or not. So my general view of the market is that right now Tesla's a little bit weaker with all this negative news. It could be dipping back down towards 320 to 316, and we'll see if it bounces. SPY may consolidate and dip a bit lower, but it also depends on our GDP numbers, so we'll see how that goes. Anyways, I thank you all so much for listening. We're going to see what happens with these GDP numbers. Get ready for some volatility tomorrow before market open at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, be ready. And as far as Tesla goes, there might be a small pullback coming, but we're going to see how well it could base around this 316 area. That's a big support, so keep that in mind. As long as we hold that, we're going to be okay. Anyways, that's it for this one. I want to make this video kind of quick today. Thank you for listening, and peace out.